I think the best way to describe AEW Grand Slam 2022 is a really good show riddled with underwhelming finishes. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Sooplex, and I'm doing a review of AEW Dynamite Grand Slam. I've not done a long form review on my YouTube channel or TikTok in a very long time. I'm going to try this out and see how it goes. I'm going to try to do this in the shortest amount of time as possible, so that being said, let's get into the opening match. It was Claudio Castagnoli defending his Ring of Honor World Championship against Chris Jericho. Now, I watch AEW Dynamite on a weekly basis, and I cannot tell you for the life of me why this match even happened. I don't recall Chris Jericho even being announced to compete for the championship or winning anything to compete for the championship. It was just a match that was just announced for Dynamite, and it's like, okay, that's cool and all, but when you just announce a championship match like that, the expectation is that the champion is going to retain because there is no build up to this. Now, mind you, the match itself was really good, and I really am enjoying this new arc of Chris Jericho. I feel like Chris Jericho, the best way to describe it is that he's on this almost workhorse arc, where ever since his match with Jon Moxley a couple months ago, where he came back as the Lionheart Chris Jericho, and he had that really good, technically sound match with him, he's been doing this run where he's just having these really good matches. And I'm not trying to say that Chris Jericho for the last 10 years has just been having bad matches, but these matches have a different vibe to them. Like, he's trying to be more technically sound, and that's why I call it like the workhorse arc of Chris Jericho. I've been enjoying it a lot, and we saw that here with Claudio Castagnoli. He's doing more holds. He's at this really cool spot in a match where I think Claudio tried to do this like top rope powerbomb, and Chris Jericho countered into a Rana in midair. That was so fucking dope for a guy who's 50 years old. I enjoyed the match overall, but then we got to this point at the end where Chris Jericho distracts the referee, low blows Claudio, hits the Judas effect, and gets the 3 count. Now, mind you, big pop from the crowd. I was shocked. I popped myself. And then after like 5 seconds, I'm sitting here like, Chris Jericho is the Ring of Honor World Champion? Like, I like Chris Jericho. You guys know he used to be like my all-time favorite, not so much anymore. But I like Chris Jericho and everything, but like, why did he need to win the Ring of Honor World Champion? It just seemed like a very unnecessary move for Ring of Honor / AEW to do. Especially when Ring of Honor is not on TV and it's having these like one-off shows every once in a while. It doesn't really seem like this move needed to happen. If it's to further the storyline between, and that's what I feel like it's doing, it's furthering the storyline between Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia, because Jazz came out to, come forward and say, oh yeah, Chris Jericho, you're so fucking awesome, woo woo woo. And then you saw Daniel Garcia come out and he looked so downtrodden and like kind of like upset that Chris Jericho won up to him because he's the pure champion, but now Chris Jericho's the Ring of Honor World Champion. He feels one upped in a sense. That's a nice little, edge to the storyline, but did we really need Chris Jericho to win the Ring of Honor World Championship to further a storyline? I feel like that was a very unnecessary move. So even though it was a good match, underwhelming finish because that was unnecessary. I'm not mad. I'm just like, why did this happen? It didn't need to. And then Chris Jericho's going to have how long is the reign going to be? I don't know. I'm not going to think too much about it, but Chris Jericho's the new Ring of Honor champion. Following that, we then got into the Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I thought it was very interesting that they had this match following the Ring of Honor World Championship match. I would have put this probably like a match after or open the show with that, because the crowd, they popped huge. I think the claim I can say was, you know what? Sorry, fruit fly. I don't want to say they were the most over because someone else on the show was the most over. They were the second most over people on the show. You know what? They were the most over people who were planned and expected to be on the show. They had a huge pop when they came out. Everybody loves the Acclaim. Scissor me, daddy. It's great. I love the Acclaim. You love the Acclaim. I think a lot of people were expecting something similar to the match they had at All Out, which many recall as saying it was like the greatest tag team match they've seen, or it's the match of the year. And it was a phenomenal match they had All Out, and I think a lot of people were expecting that type of match. And honestly, I would say this match was very disappointing. I'm not going to say it was bad, but it was like half the time of what the All Out match was, and considering this is the biggest Dynamite of the year, I feel like this match could have definitely gotten some more time. Not only that, but then I feel like there was a lot of things that were They were repeating the injury angle, the leg being hurt, but not with Anthony Bowens, with Max Caster. Now, I don't know if it was a real injury or not, but there was one point where he tried for his elbow drop and he came down weird and fell on his leg, and he kind of sold that for the rest of the match. I thought that was a very odd spot. Like, I didn't know why that spot even happened. But then a few minutes later, we got to the finish, and they hit their moves. They hit the neck breaker and the elbow drop, and Max Caster and Anthony Bowens are your new AEW Tag Team Champions. And it was a cool moment, but the match just felt underwhelming compared to the last one they had. I thought it was awesome. I love the Acclaim. I love the fact they're the AEW Tag Team Champions, but I can't help feeling this match was a bit of a letdown in all. Love the Acclaimed. Love the new Tag Team Champions. Felt like the match was a letdown, though. So following that match, I believe we got into the Fatal 4-Way for the... No. We got into Orange Cassidy versus Pac. Another match that I felt like was a bit disappointing because I remember their match from 2020. Phenomenal match. They had a match in 2021 with Kenny Omega, triple threat match. Phenomenal match. They come in here. It starts off pretty similar to the first match. They start getting into things. It starts picking up pace. It slows down a bit. Then they go outside the ring. Pac takes a hammer, bops him in the head, gets him into the ring, and then pins him. And I'm like, that's it? That's it? Like, that's all we're getting? It was short. Didn't really feel that fulfilling. And Pac retained. And I'm not even mad that Orange Cassidy lost, because I'll be honest, if he would have won, it would have been great, but I wasn't like banking on him to win this match either. It just, again, another match, underwhelming finish. So then we got into the Fatal 4-Way for the AEW Women's World Championship between Toni Storm, who was the champion, Serena Deeb, Athena, and Britt Baker. This, in my opinion, was actually my favorite match of the night, because it was so unexpected how good it was. Serena Deeb, I felt like, was carrying the workload in this match. She was on go for a lot of this match. She was doing all types of really dope moves. She did a double pin at one point. Then she had Toni Storm in like this Muta lock, and then she suplexed Athena at the same time and was doing all these double combinations. Athena was in here. She did like this move where she held up two women and slammed them. Like, there was a lot of cool spots in here. A lot of them did not involve Toni Storm, which I felt like was a bit like, oh, okay. Even though she's the world champion, she should be getting some more shine too. Toni Storm did end up winning the match. Britt Baker got bloodied a bit in this match. I don't know what spot she did, but I think she, like, you know, her nose is all bleeding and whatnot. Toni Storm retained. After the match, she's beating down, what's her name? Jamie Hayter comes out. We're thinking she's going to turn, but then she joins Britt Baker and helps beat down, I believe Toni Storm is who they were attacking. And out comes the returning or debuting, whatever you want to call her, Soraya Knight. Soraya, the former Paige of WWE, makes her AEW debut. I saw the reports the day before, which I thought was very interesting, that it was a day report like that came out, and then the next day she just fucking is on Dynamite. Almost like they kind of wanted to hype. I don't even know how to describe it. Oh, it's almost like they wanted to kind of hype you up for the possibility that it might happen, and then it just happened. But the thing was, I saw that report and I didn't even expect it still, because it's like, I remember her injury and how bad it was and how long she's been out. Like, oh, she's not coming back. And here she's back. Now, we don't know if she's going to wrestle. We don't know if she's going to be a manager. We don't know what her role is going to be. We just know she's in AEW. My hoping is that she's not going to wrestle. Now, listen, if she's willing and ready and her body can handle it, awesome. I'm not going to say, oh, stay your ass on the bench for the rest of your life if you can't do it. But I don't know. We don't know if she can do it. Like, from the last I heard of her back and neck and how it doesn't sound good. It didn't sound like she should be able to return. Once again, we don't know if she's actually wrestling or not. That has not been confirmed yet. But that being said, I'm excited to see her back in AEW. And that leads into the main event of the show, Jon Moxley versus Bryan Danielson for the AEW World Championship. At the very beginning of the match, we see MJF in the crowd with the poker chip. Even earlier in the show, he had a segment with Wheeler Yuta where he was hinting at cashing in tonight. He didn't cash in, just to get that out the way. Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley had a great match. A lot of back and forth, a lot of mat work. It was hard hitting. It was the exact match you would expect Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson to have. I think a lot of fans in here were banking on Bryan Danielson, but you know, the crowd was behind Jon Moxley because Jon Moxley is fucking awesome. Why wouldn't you be behind Jon Moxley? We got to the finish, and Jon Moxley hits the curb stomp, which I Mr. Seth Rollins. I thought that was cool. He hits the I almost called it the Death Rider, the paradigm shift in AEW, and Moxley and Bryan kicks out. Bryan hits a bazooka knee, and Mox kicks out. And I'm like, oh, they kicked out of each other's finishers. Now I wonder what the finish is going to be. So Moxley gets Bryan down in the sleeper hold position. Now he's known for doing the bully choke, the sleeper bully choke, whatever. And Bryan's fading, and I'm like, oh, how is Bryan going to get out of this? Because like Moxley is on top of Bryan in the sleeper hold. All of your body weight is on top of him in the sleeper hold. I don't think he's getting out of this, but Bryan's going to get out of this somehow. Referee puts his arm up, falls to the mat, calls the bell. And I was like, huh? What? So, I love Jon Moxley. I think Jon Moxley carried AEW throughout the summer, even at times when CM Punk got injured. Both times CM Punk got injured, he was the champion. And it's like, okay, you have Bryan Danielson in here. He's been with the company for a year now. Been having a great run. It's been 1 year almost to the day that Bryan Danielson debuted in AEW. He has all the tools to be a world champion. And you put it right back on Jon Moxley. This I really did not understand. Once again, Jon Moxley's awesome. But we just saw him as the world champion when CM Punk was injured. CM Punk came back. Jon Moxley won. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get this chronologically right. CM Punk beat Hangman Page. Gets injured. Moxley wins the world championship. CM Punk comes back. Gets injured again. And then we have this whole tournament. This tournament of champions. The crown a new champion. Jon Moxley's there because he's the former champion. We have this whole tournament get to the finals between Moxley and Bryan Danielson, who has not been the world champion and is on a really good run for himself, and you put it right back on a guy who was just the champion? I don't feel like that makes a lot of sense. What was it? It's like, what was the point of the tournament? What was the entire point of the tournament if you were just going to put it back on the same guy who was just the champ? Because at the end of the day, CM Punk may have won the world championship All Out, but that's all that is. That's all there is to it. Because he had to vacate it literally the next day. You really can't even say you don't recognize the second reign at all. So if you're not recognizing the second reign at all, then we went from Jon Moxley right to Jon Moxley. It's like that I don't feel like that was a good booking decision. I don't understand why we put the championship right back on Moxley. Once again, I like Jon Moxley. Got to reiterate that because I don't want people to think I don't like Jon Moxley. I don't like the fact that he's the world champion. But I do not understand what was the point of the tournament if you were going to put it right back on the guy who was just the champion. So we're going to end up getting Moxley versus MJF, which is not new because we got that match at All Out 2020, and MJF is going to beat him. And I get there's something there between Moxley and MJF, and I gotta believe that's exactly why Tony Khan put it back on Moxley, because there's some history there between Moxley and MJF. But I felt like we could have went with Hangman Page as champion again, bouncing off of the Punk comments. We could have went with Bryan Danielson as champion. You could have went with, I would have even taken Sammy or Darby Allin. But right back on Moxley, it just felt like we're taking a step backwards here. So, to wrap it all up, at the very beginning I said this is a really good show with underwhelming finishes. A lot of the things I seen on this show, I walked away and I'm like, why? So, I feel like I can't really say this is a great show. It was really good at best. But that's my thoughts on it. What do you guys think about AEW Grand Slam? Did you enjoy this show? Did you not enjoy the show? Comment down below. Let your boy know. I love y'all. Let's get some discussion started in the comment section. I'll see you guys later. Peace.